Welcome to this video where we continue our look at Adobe Camera Raw. The digital negative format is going to crop up in my videos from time to time, so I'd like to spend just a few minutes here explaining what it is. If we create a high dynamic range or a panoramic image from multiple files within Adobe Camera Raw, the merged image that's created for us is going to be in digital negative format, DNG. While we're working in Adobe Camera Raw, we do have a Save Image option down at the extreme bottom left, and the DNG format is offered as a save option there too. If you use Adobe's Bridge to help you to import your RAW files via the photo downloader, that can automatically convert to DNG on import, and of course Lightroom will do this for you too. Each camera manufacturer has its own RAW image file format. Now this means that a Nikon created RAW file cannot be opened and manipulated with Canon RAW editing software, and vice versa of course. It also means that any image editing software that we use, it needs to be kept up to date with all of the different camera manufacturers and the RAW image file formats that they create. Now, to explain the impact this can have on those of us who shoot RAW images, perhaps we can just take a brief look back at Photoshop before it became an online subscription service. Photoshop's been around for over 25 years, and I've just got a few of the more recent versions on screen there. Photoshop CS2, the CS standard for Complete Suite, CS3, CS4, CS5 and CS6. Following on from CS6, that's when we moved on to Creative Cloud, which is what I'm using here. Let's assume that you were using Photoshop CS2 and you had a camera capable of shooting RAW images. The camera make is not important here. Adobe would have to write software that allowed Camera Raw to recognize your camera. It's called a RAW plugin, but no problem so far. Everything for you is working fine. So you're quite happy to use Photoshop CS2 and your current camera. But a few years pass. During this time, Adobe released Photoshop CS3. In fact, if you had your camera for a while, they could have moved on further to CS4 or maybe even CS5. It really depends how long you've been using that camera. Let's also assume that you're still happy to be using Photoshop CS2, but you've now just traded in your camera and you've bought a newly released Canon. More pixels perhaps. You rush out to take some RAW images with your brand new camera, but you're a little bit surprised to find when you get home that your version of Photoshop CS2 now doesn't recognize any of the images and it won't open them. Your current software, Photoshop CS2, would have been updated for new cameras while it was a current version, but now it's not. Photoshop's up to CS4. The only option you had would have been to either update to Photoshop CS4, and of course there would have been a cost involved in that, or you could have used the RAW converter that would be provided by your new camera. Unfortunately, no common standard for RAW image files exist. Now this could result in compatibility problems because these formats are likely to become obsolete as time goes on and camera technology evolves. As a result of this, Adobe came up with the digital negative DNG format. The idea is that this format would provide a solution to the longer term storage of raw images generated with different makes of camera. As well as being able to convert our raw files to DNG when we import them, Adobe also provide via a download the software that converts image files from most digital cameras into DNG format. I currently have on screen within Adobe's Bridge the digital negative converter. It's very easy to find with a Google search, download and install. We can see from the option at the top there, we just select the folder of images we want to convert, and this assumes of course we're converting them after we've downloaded them to our computer. In section 2 we decide where they're going to be stored, and all I've done here is selected a new folder. We get the usual options that Photoshop gives us for naming the files and one or two preferences, but then all we need to do is to click convert. I've got about 30 images here, and you can see it working at the moment, and it's doing it relatively quickly, and it seems to be done. Conversion was successful. So here we're viewing the DNG converted images. We can tell that pretty easily by the file extension DNG, and if I just select one of these images and double click, it'll open up into Camera Raw exactly the same as our standard RAW files. Shame about the car. So the DNG specification was developed with the intent of eliminating these compatibility problems by becoming the standard format for long-term storage and the archiving of digital photographs. Now, some camera manufacturers are embracing the DNG format. I did notice a few months ago when my son showed me some images from a Mavic Pro drone that all of the raw files were in fact DNG. But other manufacturers seem to be resisting it for some reason. Only time will tell if DNG will become the standard. Since the launch of the subscription version of Photoshop, Creative Cloud, which we're using here, we don't have those problems, but other software that isn't subscription may do. So should we convert? Well, I think it's a personal choice. Digital negative files will be around 15 to 20% smaller in size than many of our raw files without any loss of quality. That could be useful for longer term storage. We could include the original raw file in the digital negative, but I can't see a great deal of point in that. It just doubles the file size and it's not really necessary. With the DNG format, the XMP data is included in the DNG file, so that could make it quite a bit simpler to keep things organized on our PC. Now, I've taken a look around the internet to see if I can pick up any reasons not to use the digital negative format, and I can't say I can really find any. It's probably something we should just put into our routine when we import images onto our computer. If you're watching this video on YouTube, then it's about time you came to my website and purchased Manipulating Raw Images, because that is the route to the wow value. Well, seeing as you're here, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you're notified when I post new content. This particular video is just one in a set of well over 20 videos on the subject of shooting and manipulating raw images. To find the rest of those videos, come along to the website you can see on screen, go to my Photoshop CC tutorials and individual subjects, but to help you I'll put a link in the Show More section below.